Talkative Exiles, Talkative Try here with another Path of Exile 2 video. Today we have some new information about Path of Exile 2 that is very exciting from PAX West due to a few interviews that Octavian, a game designer on Path of Exile 2 and former content creator, had with a few outlets. We also have a little bit of news from a Zizarin interview that Octavian did at Gamescom that just came out. And then the bulk of today's video is going to be talking about how gems work in Path of Exile 2, a complete rundown of it because it has changed a lot. And I feel like I need to put out a video just to get my head wrapped around how many different things has changed with the skill gem system. Then we're going to look at the current gem set, meaning how many gems are in the game, the goal by 1.0, which is the launch 6 to 12 months after early access, what will actually happen by 1.0. Then we're going to look at some cool skill gems, some cool support gems, and talk about what other archetypes and skills have not yet been explored in PoE2. And then we're going to close it out with a little bit of a question from me about some new Path of Exile 2 videos. Let's begin with the news from PAX West. There were two interviews that Octavian did with outlets Geeks vs. Geeks and Echo Hack. And the first one I just need to mention is the fact that early access will not be invite only. It will be open. This was confirmed by Octavian, and the way to get in will come up soon, and we should keep an eye on pathofexile2.com. Now, a long time ago, Jonathan Rogers did say that the way to get into Path of Exile 2's closed beta, open beta, and now early access would be the same as the Fall of Oriath's or PoE 1's 3.0 expansions beta, and that was going to be through various keys that you could purchase if you had supported with supporter packs in the past, a certain amount, about $500, and there would be random draws and the like. He said Path of Exile 2's would be very similar. They obviously have not announced the official way to get in, but a lot of people were saying, okay, well, maybe this is just going to be invite only. No, it is going to be open. If you want to play Path of Exile 2 on November 15th, you will be able to do so. Next, he clarified how leveling gems worked. I was a little confused about this, and when we go over skill gems in just a few minutes, I'm going to do a full rundown on it. Additionally, he said that both games are now running on the same updated self-built engine, which wasn't happening before. This was mainly done for MTX, but graphical updates to PoE 1 from PoE 2 are now very, very feasible. In addition, Zizarin, with his interview with Octavian, apparently the wait times at Gamescom to play Path of Exile 2 were 2+ hours. People were hyped, and it was really cool for Octavian to be able to tell them the release date is November 15th. If you're happy playing it at Gamescom or PAX West, here is the time when you will actually be able to play it on your own computers. Big thanks to Geeks vs. Geeks, Echo Hack, and Zizarin for that little bit of Path of Exile 2 news. Now we're going to head into the bulk of the video, which is talking about all the different skill and support gems and the systems surrounding them in Path of Exile 2, because they have undergone quite an evolution. It's seriously ridiculous. Right now, we're looking at 124 skill gems ready for early access and 71 support gems. Now, let's get into the actual mechanics of said gem system. But before we get any deeper into the video, the best way you can support the channel is to hit the like button right now and to subscribe to the channel for more Path of Exile 2 content. All of it is going to be here on this channel. I'm going all in on covering it, making builds, and all the rest. It's going to be a hugely fun time, and I could really use your support in growing the channel. We're going to see how fast we can balloon up and see if I could turn this into something that I can do more often. Thank you all so much for your support. Here's the most basic part of it. Skilled gems give skills, everyone. Support gems enhance or change those skills they are socketed in. In 2019, gem sockets were given by gear. That has completely changed. It changed in 2023, and now skill gems are just in it to your character. You have 9, and you can get more skills from items and potential ascendancy classes, which we'll talk about more later. Right now, you have a max of 5 support gems that can be linked or socketed into a skill gem. Skills start with 2 possible sockets, and you can get more sockets onto your skill gems using items or finding gems with more natural sockets. These items that you're able to find, they are probably going to be jeweler's orbs and greater versions of them that can change the number of sockets in a skill gem from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 or 2 to 4 and the like. Gems are now gained from uncut gems, both support gems and skill gems. Gems also don't require experience to level up. Now you use those uncut gems that you find to find higher level gems, or you use uncut gems to level up gems you already have. Say you find a level 19 uncut gem. You can use it on a level 7 skill gem to level it into a level 19 skill gem, or you can just create a skill of the level of the uncut gem. You open that screen, you choose from any skill that you possibly want. You are not limited in any way besides the level of the uncut gem. But say you are a mercenary primarily using crossbows, that doesn't mean you can't choose an occult skill or an elemental skill. You can choose anything that you'd like, even though the default screen that you're going to open to is based on what you are currently wielding in your primary weapon slot. If you are a caster and you're using a staff and using elemental skills, then you will automatically open to the elemental screen instead. Originally, gems were sorted by class when gem cutting. Now when you engrave them, they are sorted by weapon or archetype, with an option to see all gems at once too. The number of each skill and support gem attribute or color type you can use is determined by your strength, dexterity, and intelligence. Every 5 points gives you 1 gem slot of that type to use. So for example, if you have a 20 strength, that means you can use 4 red or strength gems. If you have a 5 dexterity, you can only use 1 green or dexterity gem between support and normal skill gems. And to close it out, skills in Path of Exile 2 can be comboed with each other for massive damage and advantages over enemies. This design is very intentional, and even though 1 to 2 button builds will still be possible in Path of Exile 2, and you will be able to clear content with them, you are supposed to combine skills together for huge damage and awesome combinations. Now let's talk about the state of gems in the game as it stands in the lead up to early access. Based on all the builds that we've seen in both LA events that I was present in, at Gamescom, at PAX West, we have been able to patch together this set of gems, and I'm getting a lot of this information over from PUE2DB. The people over there are doing phenomenal work, including Schwan, who I think does the bulk of the work, if not all the work over there. So, we currently have 124 skill gems known in Path of Exile 2. We have 71 support gems presently. Then we have 7 archetypes we've seen with actual skills attached to them being spear, bow, crossbow, mace, elemental, occult, and quarterstaff. Note that 2 of those particular categories, elemental and occult, are not attached to any weapon. That's because those are spells, and those can be used with any weapon type. Then we have 5 archetypes we've seen no skills associated to directly: axe, sword, primal, dagger, and flail. Then we have some archetypes that we don't see on the gem cutting screen that likely still exist in the game. Those being claws, divine, and traps. I'm not sure if there's anything else that I'm missing. Let me know in the comments below if there's something that is completely escaping my mind. But I think claws are confirmed to still be in the game. Traps are. Mines aren't. They're built into traps, and traps are actually items, and the items give you the skill. And then divine, I just think we're going to have divine skills, some sort of holy skills in the game. We'll see if that pans out. That's a prediction from me. Now, the goal by 1.0, the launch of Path of Exile 2, which will happen between 6 to 12, maybe a little bit longer, months out from that November 15th early access launch, was 240 skill gems total. This was claimed in the Path of Exile 2 Trailer 3 released at ExileCon 2023. They said, we want 240 skill gems at least, with a lower limit of 20 to 25 skill gems for each archetype. That's the updated aim in 2024, with more potential skills in every archetype. What's actually realistic if we look at what is actually in the game right now? Even more. If we count the 15 archetypes outlined before and multiply by the lowest limit of 20 skill gems per archetype, we'd hit 300 with ease. I'd posit we'll hit 350 to 400 skill gems by the launch of 1.0, as there's a bunch of skills going into each archetype and likely more archetypes that'll be defined in the future. Speaking of the future, the possibilities are just huge. I can't even fathom what we're going to see in 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.0, all the different skills and combinations and abilities that are going to be added into the game. The possibilities in Path of Exile 2 are literally endless. The fact that we've been speculating about this game for 5 years now, and they're building on this game for 5 years now, and the fact that they will be updating it after releasing it is just mind boggling. Now we are going to talk about a few skill gems that I think are super cool before hopping over to the support gems section. The first one is Bind Spectre. This allows you to capture any monster in the game that's not a boss using a gem like a Pokeball, catch it in that gem, and then resummon it whenever you would like. And that monster, that Spectre, then uses the ability that it used in life with no limits. This is going to create so many potential build possibilities in Path of Exile 2 because there are 600 plus unique monsters, not including reskins. That's immense. Just think about that, everyone. And in Path of Exile 1 right now, specters are a pain. I've watched enough Ghazi videos to know that that is true. Now we're going to talk about the cast on skills. Cast on melee kill, cast on melee stun, cast on shock, and cast while channeling. These are skills that use spirit, and they are meta skills, meaning you can store skill gems inside of them. And those skills will be cast when that particular effect occurs. They are interacting with spirit and showcasing that, yes, in Path of Exile 2, there will be automation and you will be able to have 1 to 2 button builds, but you will be sacrificing power and spirit to be able to do so. Because in Path of Exile 2, spirit is also used for those powerful auras and heralds and persistent buffs, including summons, that we use in Path of Exile 1. So instead of using your auras, you can use these cast on skills and it will help automate things, but it will lessen your overall character strength because you're missing out on all those persistent buffs. There's a trade-off that you're going to have to play with here. You knew I had to do it. We're going to look at Ferocious Roar, which is another meta skill that turns you into a bear. Now, we haven't seen anything about the druid since Gamescom 2023, so this could look completely different by now. But just the way that it functions in this iteration, it allows you to socket as many, 5 Warcry gems into it and then activate them all when you turn into a bear. That is bloody insane. And given the rampage ability that we saw with the bear that allowed you to run around in a circle on a monster, expending rage, if you activate this before then and you activate, let's say 5 Warcries, it's just ridiculous. And I hope it actually functions the same way, though I doubt it will. Now I want to talk about Hammer of the Gods briefly. Now, Jonathan Rogers himself, the game director of Path of Exile 2, said, using cooldowns in skill design is lazy. However, Path of Exile 2 is doing so sparingly when it really warrants the fact, and they are doing it with Hammer of the Gods, which has a cooldown time of 24 seconds. Now, there are ways that you can kind of reduce that time or evade it entirely, as we'll see in the support gem section, but they are perfectly fine with having these ultimate abilities that do have cooldowns that, if used strategically, massively boost your damage in the short term. Very excited to see a few of these in Path of Exile 2. We've seen very, very, very few of them so far. Hammer of the Gods might really be the only big one that we've seen. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the druids might be or the mercenaries might be. I'm sure they're not only going to have these big cooldown abilities for every single archetype. Give me something like a massive flamethrower or the mercenary that you can use on an attachment that has a cooldown or something. I would absolutely love that. Then I wanted to talk about Killing Palm for just a brief moment, and it's a kind of a finicky thing that I wanted to chat about here. I'll read the description of Killing Palm, and let me know if you see what I'm going to point out. Dash to an enemy and strike them with an unarmed attack, killing enemies if their life is low enough. Each enemy killed by this grants a power charge. Enemies around you that can be killed will be highlighted. This skill is always performed unarmed, even if you have a quarterstaff equipped. Right here, enemies around you that can be killed will be highlighted. This happens actually quite a bit in Path of Exile 2. Bone Shatter is another example where you get a little circle above the enemy's head when they can be stunned with Bone Shatter. I wonder how many different aspects of this you will use, and what if you have 9 skills on your character that all have this applied to them? So say they're highlighted for Killing Palm and for Bone Shatter and for skill X and skill Z. What if that happens? I'm really curious to see if it'll be too funky and it will almost be visually unclear, and we really don't want that in Path of Exile 2. I'm curious to see if you're being highlighted by two separate skills, what that actually looks like. Then I got to call out Leap Slam. This is still just the most awkward looking skill in the game, I swear. I don't know why, just the animation of flying up into the air and then coming down just looks weird. I hope that they further alter that skill before the early access release. Then I have to call it the fact that we have 8 skeletons already ready for the Path of Exile 2 early access, and the developer on the Path of Exile 2 team that designs skills, Viperesque, did actually confirm that there are few other skills coming for the occult section before early access launches. They feel like that's pretty filled out, and to give him credit, that is the most filled out section in all of the Path of Exile 2 gem cutting screens. So I think that the occult area is good to go, especially because there are already 8 skeleton summons, in addition to the zombie and the raging spirit and that unearth one with the scorpion bone thing that you can summon as well. And then one shout out to Tempest Bell, which is the skill that convinced me that combo and group play in Path of Exile 2 will be phenomenally fun. And I cannot wait to get back in the game with my wife, with my dad, with my brother, brother-in-law, and combo our skills together. Tempest Bell is so satisfying, and even if they've nerfed it a little bit, it's still just great to see it work and do massive damage, right? And the little effect that it has where it hangs on your quarterstaff, and when it's ready to go, your quarterstaff starts to ring a little bit and it lights up the end. Oh, just a very, very nice touch. Now I'd like to look at 5 support gems in Path of Exile 2, and one of them is on the screen right now, Armor Explosion Support. Let me read it off to you first. Supports attacks causing them to trigger a fiery explosion when they fully break an enemy's armor. So this, of course, is mostly attached to the mercenary who has a machine gun skill that breaks down armor. And I'm sure there are more that will exist in Path of Exile 2. This is a big mechanic, and it's allowing you to basically trigger an on-death explosion effect when you break something's armor, which will then could cascade to other monsters in a pack. I really love this idea that you also have this secondary interaction. It's not only on death, but it's also on armor break. So you could, for example, focus on a boss's armor, and they could explode when you break a boss's armor, and all the enemies around them could take a massive amount of damage. It's pretty darn cool. And if we go right down here to break endurance, gain an endurance charge when supported skills fully break enemy armor. I just love how they're giving you charges in new and interesting ways. And it's not just, okay, you killed a monster with a critical hit, or you killed a monster, now you're getting this particular charge, like in Path of Exile 1. I like these conditionals, and I hope they continue to do them with more support gems and skill gems in the future, like we saw with killing Palm. Now let's also look at enervation support, which is an interesting way to recover mana, because we know they want mana to be an actual resource in Path of Exile 2, where in Path of Exile 1, what we try to do is completely disregard mana in every single regard. This one's pretty cool. Supports any skill that hits enemies, causing you to regenerate mana on shocking an enemy. Cannot support skills which create minions or skills used by totems or traps. So you can regain a ton of mana if you're shocking. If you have a skill that has a 100% chance to shock, you can easily build up your mana very quickly and keep that full, so you can keep blasting enemies. I like that, so you wouldn't even maybe not need a mana flask, and you can use life flask or what other flasks are in the game that help you not get poisoned or shocked or ignited and the like. I also want to point out this one, Fortress Support, which I have never seen before. Supports skills that create walls in a line, causing them to be created in a circle instead. Now, very specific wording here, and obviously I'm not in game to test this, but does this work on something like volcanic fissure? So I could, instead of making it in a line, I could make it in a circle around my character and then slam it right on top of the boss and instantly get all that extra damage. I don't know if that would work. It might not work because it says creates walls in a line. Are those volcanic fissures walls? I don't know. I'd have to test it in Path of Exile 2. Too bad I'm not in the closed beta test that begins tomorrow. Unfortunate. I still like this interesting sort of design. It's not only thinking about pure damage. It's thinking about how you can change a skill to do more damage or be more strategic with it. I really, really like that. Then I wanted to point out one more skill that is support that is in Path of Exile 1 that will be huge in Path of Exile 2, given there are cooldowns, and that is Second Wind support. It's right here. which we all know it gives skills a second use. And that's awesome with skills that have massive cooldowns like Hammer of the Gods, and this does work. So I like that there's still that option to give these massive chunky skills a second wind. It's super cool, and I can see lots of combinations in which this is going to be ridiculously powerful. Skill gems aren't the only way that we will get skills in Path of Exile 2. You know, in Path of Exile 1, uniques give skills. We have Blood of Corruption, Relic of the Past, and Doriani's Fist that give quite unique skills, and I'm sure the same is going to continue in Path of Exile 2. Then we'll have ascendancies, and we know that Grinding Gear Games tinkered with this early on in PoE2's development, when we were supposed to get the Werecat skill on the Beastmaster and summon cats. This still might be a thing. I reckon it will if they want ascendancies to be absolutely game-changing. Cannot wait to see what they have in store. Then, of course, we have all these different archetypes that we haven't even yet seen yet. We have Primal, which definitely has to do with shape-shifting and transforming, and other gems like Summon Wolf, maybe Summon Bear, maybe there are some other summon types in there and stuff we can't expect. Then we have Claws. We've seen nothing to do with Claws. Then we have Traps as well. I'm sure that they have been working hard at that in the background. We have Axes too. Nothing to do with Axes. We do know that Cyclone is an axe skill. I think that's basically it. We also saw that Whirling Axe in the trailer 3 from ExileCon 2023. And then sword skills too, which are attached to the duelist, or were attached to the duelist. We haven't seen any of that stuff. So I'd love you all to go into the comments below and give me some insane speculation. What do you think is the next skill archetype that we are going to see revealed for Path of Exile 2? And what is it going to look like? Do you think we're going to get the Templar and a bunch of holy skills and skills with the flail? Do you think we're going to get the duelist and, 25 different sword skills? And how will they be dissimilar to skills that we've already seen? Because remember, it's super important for Grinding Gear Games to make all these playstyles feel distinct. They went all in with the Witch to make sure that the Witch felt good and played differently from everything else. Same with the Mercenary, same with the Druid. They're going all in these archetypes. Really curious to see what they have in store for the rest of these melee skills in Path of Exile 2. There's going to be a ton of Path of Exile 2 content leading up to Path of Exile 2's early access release, so make sure if you liked the video, hit the like button, and if you want more PoE2 content, all of it will be here on Talkative Try. Subscribe now and hit the sub notification bell button. Thanks for watching, my fellow exiles. Alla Kura.